Hello, this is Dr. Kathy, and I'm having a bit of trouble today with my computer getting this live set up. So what I've done is I'm doing it on my phone, which I don't normally do. I normally do it from my desktop so that I can, so that I can see your comments and that sort of thing. And for whatever reason, my desktop is not allowing me to log in to Facebook. So what I'm doing is trying to record this. Hopefully, you'll be able to hear me if you go onto Facebook. So far, I don't see anybody in the room, so I'm not terribly worried. But I'm hoping that you'll find me. And the topic for today is I'm so overwhelmed planning the year ahead as a neurotypical partner. So that's the topic. And I know that there were a number of people who wanted to attend. I got some messages saying, how do I get onto your Facebook? You do have to be a member of Facebook to get into my Facebook Live, but it's public. It's a public forum. This particular Facebook forum is open to the public, so if you're a member, all you have to do is just kind of log in and go to my page, Dr. Kathy Marshak, or I think it's Kathy Marshak, Ph.D. So I'll give people a chance to find me. If this doesn't work, I'll just have to reschedule for all of you who are trying to get in today, because I don't know what the problem is for why my computer is not letting me into Facebook. And I'll, have to figure that one out. Every once in a while there's a technology glitch. So as you join me, would you mind leaving me a comment? I do see at the bottom of my phone here that I can see comments. So one of the things I like to do at Facebook Live is answer your questions if you've got some, or if you've got a comment or a tip for other people. I very much would like you to include that. Probably keep adjusting my screen so that I can keep it going. Okay. And also let me know if you can hear me or if you found the Facebook Live and you've joined. Okay. The topic, like I said, is I'm so overwhelmed planning the year ahead as a neurotypical partner. And what this is about is kind of I mentioned this in my little preliminary video on the topic, is that there's a lot of things to talk about how to take care of yourself or how to manage neurodivergent relationships. And in January, what we're going to be talking about is, how to deal with things like the silent treatment or the shame and blame that you feel in these relationships. There's other things as well, but the idea is that the problems that we have negotiating a neurodivergent relationship don't really get any better after the holidays. Sometimes we're hoping the holidays make it so that it really works. And I do see that people are coming into the room. Can you make a comment to me that you can hear me and see me? Because if that's true, it'd be great. If it's not working, then I'll have to figure out something else. Whoops, that's my computer coming on. So one of the things that I know is that we tend to hope that the holiday season will kind of connect us and bring us together and make it better for everybody. And then by January, when we have the same problems that we've always had, we get pretty discouraged. So in addition, planning for the year ahead is something that I'm going to be perfectly honest about it. It's something that neurotypicals do better than the NeuroDiverse. We are better at plannings. We don't have alexithymia. There isn't a disconnect between consciously understanding things and emotionally pulling the pieces together and developing a plan. Remember, the NeuroDiverse not only have alexithymia, but that leads to what is called context blindness. So they're not always tracking all the pieces that are necessary to keep the system going. Sorry about keeping adjusting my screen. I hope you aren't distracted by that. Now let me define a few things. NeuroDiverse is a term referring to primarily autistic people, but there are other types of neurodiversity, such as ADHD or bipolar disorder and that sort of thing. But in our groups, we use neurodiverse to refer to autism. Okay? And then neurotypicals are non-spectrum, non-autism spectrum people who have a fairly well-established empathy sensitivity. They're able to read things. They don't have alexithymia. There isn't a delay between their thoughts and their emotions. And in addition, I refer to neurodivergence as the sort of collision of worlds, or the breaking apart of these two worlds. So we've got the neurotypical world and the neurodiverse world, and they neurodiverge. Now, I realize out there in the world, people use neurodivergent and neurodiverse interchangeably, but they really aren't the same thing. Neurodiversity refers to that person's operating system, and it's neurodiverse. It's not neurotypical. And neurodivergent means that these two systems aren't always working well together. So hopefully that makes sense. And I hope the people in the room can hear me. Nobody's made a comment yet, or else I don't know how to pull it up on my phone. I'm terribly sorry. By the way, since I'm having trouble with technology today, if you want to leave me comments on this Facebook Live, I will go back in later and answer them, because I don't know what else to do. I want to make sure we get this topic out there because Christmas is coming up. Another thing I want to let you know about is that there are a number of resources available, and I couldn't put the link in today's live, but I will do it later. Oh, good. Thank you, Diana. You can hear me and see me. Good. At least that part's working. But I'll post the link later for you to find out all the resources that are available for neurodivergent couples and families, as well as neurotypicals. I have a meetup group for neurotypicals. I have the premium community forum for neurotypicals. I also offer a number of online recorded courses that you can take. And of course, I have five books that you can order. They're on Amazon. They're also on my website. And you can order them in print, Kindle, ebook, and Audible. So there's a lot of ways for you to get information. Oh, good. Catherine can see me too. It's good to hear people that I know you can see me and hear me. Okay, so there are all these resources that are available. It's just that it still takes a while to weed through these differences in operating systems. It takes a long time to do that. So I want you to be patient, but I want you to plan for the new year that it's going to be about being more aware of the things you need to change so that you can communicate with your loved ones and solve problems. Okay. Also, what we're going to be talking about is the events that are coming up in January for these private groups. The events aren't hosted on Facebook. They're hosted in Meetup, the Premium Forum, and my courses. So you do have to sign up for those things. And like I said, after this Facebook Live, I'll go ahead and put the links in there so you can find me. But you can also just Google me. You know, Kathy Marshak, you'll get to my websites. So here's some of the topics we're going to be talking about next month, January. The first one is, how come I feel so much blame and shame? And it's an interesting idea. Both neurodiverse and neurotypical feel the blame and shame. And it's what people do when they're problem solving. Sadly, we look for what's wrong, and often in the process of looking for what's wrong, it sounds like we're complaining about the other person. Sometimes we are. Sometimes we are blaming the other person. And the shame comes, it's a slightly different process, but the shame is another survival technique of human beings, which is interesting. we feel ashamed when we can't figure out what to do. We're all smart, we're capable people. We feel badly when we can't quickly figure out what to do. And then if the other person is relying on you to figure out what to do and you can't, then you feel bad. So guilt or shame is a survival technique, by the way, that human beings use. It's a way we come to terms with what can I do, what I can't do, right? And we hate to think that we can't do something. That's why people spin and spin and spin in neurodivergent relationships, continuing to try to find out what's wrong as opposed to understanding these different operating systems. It's not that anything's wrong, it's that we do things often radically differently because our brains are organized differently. Okay, so that's the first one coming up January 8th. That's for neurotypicals in the advanced community, the premium community forum, and it will also be available to meetup members. Oh, and by the way, these conferences are all recorded, and I store them at the Advanced Community Forum or the course for whomever is in the course. So you can go back and listen to, years of recordings. I have at least 10 or 12 years. I can't remember now how many years of recordings I have that are available to you to listen to if you're members of the group. Plus, there's YouTube. That's free. I have a podcast. That's free. I talk about this stuff all the time, and I want you to get it. Hopefully for the new year, one of the things on your planning list is that I'm going to just keep processing what I'm learning. I'm going to keep myself open to expand my consciousness, because that's what you're going to need to do. Okay, the second event is how do I move past the silent treatment? So sadly what happens is a lot of times if we don't want conflict, we just shut down. We walk away. And if your neurodiverse person walks away, they are kind of ghosting you if you're the neurotypical and you keep wanting to talk about it. But they're ghosting you because it makes them so anxious to problem solve something they can't do. That's why for the new year, neurodiverse people also need to stay open to there might be another way of looking at these problems. Right? But the silent treatment is a type of abuse. If you think about it, if you do this with your loved one, right? It's a type of abuse. You're treating this person as if they're not worth hanging in there with. Rather than the silent treatment, I would recommend that at least you say something like, this is overwhelming me, I need to take a break. I need a timeout. Then at least you're being respectful of this other person, right? If you don't offer that, then you're just ghosting someone, and that's terrible. But sometimes people are so anxious, especially our neurodiverse loved ones, that they just shut down and can't even say a word. They just turn around and walk away, or they don't talk to you for 3 days. If you take a break, since part 2, is you need to repair that ghosting. So if you take a break, it's really important. Once you come to your senses and you understand better what's going on, go back to the other person and apologize. Say, I'm so sorry I had to cut you off, but I needed some time to think this through. And then see if you can't talk about it, what it is. See if you can't talk again about what you need to talk about. And I'm looking over here for any questions that anybody puts up. So far I don't see any, I don't think. Let me look. Yeah, that's it. Okay. The third conference is I Feel So Invisible. Why doesn't anyone notice my pain? So this is another major concept that you need to put into your planning for the month, because in a way you sort of are invisible. The neurodiverse have been invisible all of their lives, by the way. That's why they developed masking. Okay, nobody really got them. Most of the adults that we're dealing with these days that are on the spectrum didn't get diagnosed as children. So they've spent their lifetime trying to fit in, but nobody really getting them, and that's very traumatic. It's one of the reasons they use the silent treatment. But neurotypicals feel invisible too, because you're counting on your neurodiverse loved ones to connect with you, to listen, to notice you. right? To say, hi, how's it been? Now, I noticed, Dr. Marshak, that you've been adjusting your screen over and over again. That must be difficult for you. Not that anybody's saying that, but that would be an option to at least acknowledge the other person. When you don't have empathy, when you have an empathy dysfunction disorder like autism or even ADHD, a lot of times you're not noticing the subtle little things about the other person that would make them feel like they are visible. Right? Sometimes it's just saying, gosh, you look nice today. Or, I noticed that you were missing from our church picnic and I really missed you. There's lots of ways to let the other person know they're of value, and they don't do that a lot. People who are neurodiverse don't do that. They want to be noticed. They don't want to be invisible, but they forget to let you know. They forget that there's a reciprocity that's needed. But there's another source of invisibility for neurotypicals in these relationships with people that are high-functioning autistic. That other thing is that there isn't other people. There aren't too many other people who get what you're living with. You might just be really fatigued. You might have had, I don't know, a little breakdown, a little meltdown, and people are wondering why you're so fussy. Or they may say, gosh, you've got a great spouse who works really hard for you. What's your problem? They don't really understand that when you have a neurodivergent relationship where you're not recognized over and over again, it's demoralizing and fatiguing. Right? So you feel invisible to others, and that's what we'll be talking about in this conference, and that'll be on January 22nd. Again, you need to be a member of our groups, but you don't need to be a member to watch my YouTubes or listen to my podcast, or even I'm doing a vlog now on my website. I'll just be starting a vlog, so it's a video blog. You'll be able to get information that way too. But if you want to talk to other people who live this life, who are neurodiverse, neurotypical, in a neurodivergent relationship, you need to sign up for the group so that you can talk to each other. I mean, you can do that outside of group too, but I facilitate these kind of talks. And then the next thing on my list is our ambassador, Julie. She offers a free member video call once a month, Going Over the Edge in Your Neurodivergent Relationships. That's the title. And that'll be Thursday, January 23rd. Julie has been a member of my group for at least a decade or more, and she's lived this life. She absolutely knows what it's like to raise a child on the spectrum, to have a spouse on the spectrum, to go through feeling invisible, going through the blame and shame stage, all that silent treatment. She understands it. And so what's helpful about this free group is that she talks about how to use all these resources that are available, how to educate yourself and take good care of yourself. She talks about that, and she's kind and supportive, so it just feels good to talk to somebody who gets it. And you can meet other people that way too in the free group. She's just a real miracle worker, I think. She's wonderful. And then in my course, I have a number of courses. I have a course for mental health professionals. I have a course for business leaders, managers, and so forth who might have a neurodivergent team. Healthcare professionals who want to learn how to be more available therapists for neurodivergent couples and families. I have courses for them. And then I have a course that's for both neurodiverse and neurotypical to take together. It's an online recorded course. You can take it together or separately. You don't have to go with your spouse. But what's nice about the course is that you can go at your own pace, you can learn things, and then once a month, in fact, it's happening today. I have a video conference today at 4 o'clock Pacific time for members of the course, so we'll be talking there about love and Christmas and the stress of all of the season when you don't feel like you're on the same wavelength with your partner. So the free webinar for, if you're a member of the course, the webinar is free, but you do have to be a member. And in January, it's also a similar topic. Start the new year off right. Build your interface protocol. So the interface protocol, by the way, is something that I developed to help people with communication, right? It's a 7-step process, and it's more aspirational than it is rules to follow. It's more like this is what we should be doing. So it's about building resilience, accepting the diagnosis of autism so that you can move past the fight over that, realizing that one partner has empathy sensitivity, one partner has empathy dysfunction. Even though they might be kind and care, they're not reading between the lines. And there's other steps in there, like learning how to step away from the blame and shame and apologizing and using workarounds. I call them workarounds because trying to teach someone with neurodiversity to think like someone who's neurotypical isn't going to happen. Those systems are different. Okay, so the issue then for us is how to hang in there and plan for the new year when you're really good at planning, because neurotypicals are. They're good at taking care of the family, making sure they've got mom on covered and grandma covered and the kids signed up for gymnastics or whatever it is that you're doing. And you may also be a professional people who are busy planning your work year ahead. But one of the parts of planning that we need to also address is learning how to work with someone who's not an interpersonal planner, because neurodiverse people don't think about that. They want things to go better. They want you to be happier, but they don't plan for it. They don't think about what can I do differently. They really don't do that. They want to be there for you. So the neurotypical has to think about that part of the planning is slowing everything down and managing things through the 7-step interface protocol. Using workarounds requires twice, sometimes 10 times the energy of normal empathic flow of conversation. Some of the tools that neurotypicals need to learn how to do is give your neurodiverse loved one rules to follow. Tell them what the bottom line is, where you're headed. Don't expect them to chat with you about it. And that sometimes feels like a loss. So for you neurodiverse people, I really want you to pay attention to that. If your neurotypical is chatting a little too much, it's because they keep trying to bring you on board into their interactional world, and that's not so easy to do. Okay, I'm not getting any questions, and I'm wondering if it's because the recording is through my phone and I don't have as much access to the comments. I'm going to look and see if anybody else is leaving me a message. I know there's people watching, so I appreciate that. If you don't have any questions about this is okay too, because I could talk on for a little bit longer about some topics, but I want to answer questions if you've got them. So is there anybody that has something yet? So one of the things that us planners have to understand is that you can do all the planning you want to for your neurodivergent family. You can have it all well thought out. You can have contingency plans even, and they still might not work. So one of the tips that I give my neurotypicals is if you're not getting much cooperation because the neurodiverse person doesn't really get what you're asking for, that I want you to consider that you can do it yourself, hire it done, or let it go. It's better than shaming and blaming. Oh, and Diane says she was a little bit late and she wanted to know what the topic is. And so I'm sorry that you missed that because I was talking about a lot of this stuff, but the topic is, I'll read it again. I'm so overwhelmed. Planning the year ahead as a neurotypical partner, I'm overwhelmed. And we're talking about the events that are coming up for the season, for January, because we're going to be talking about how to release that overwhelm. If you keep using your neurotypical system, you're going to be more overwhelmed because you're not going to get cooperation that way. The neurotypical system is to say something like, chat for a little bit and say, I was thinking maybe we could plan early for our vacation this year. Kind of, I don't know, what do you think? And we're expecting our partner to say, well, January is kind of early, but maybe we can do that. And then you say, well, do you want a really warm, you want a tropical vacation? Do you want a kid vacation? Do you want to go visit the relatives? What kind of things are you thinking about? When's a good time for you? And then we talk back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. That's how neurotypicals do it. The problem with the neurodiverse is they're waiting for you to tell them what you want specifically. So it's important when you're planning to realize that you're not going to get that reciprocal conversation going. A lot of times the neurodiverse person will try to understand what you're talking about, but if you tell them too many parameters, they get lost. So it's just better to say, I'd like a tropical vacation, or maybe we could have two. I'd like a tropical vacation and a vacation to go back and visit the in-laws. And then your neurodiverse partner can say, that sounds fine. Right. And Diana says, yes, I feel like I do all the planning for every single thing. My loved one defaults to me for everything. Right. They're waiting to know what you want and what you want them to do. So you can say things like, I want the tropical vacation and I'm thinking about going to Hawaii, or I want to go to the Yucatan. Whatever it is, you say something. But you might say, could you research if there's any tour groups? Let's say you want to go on a tour. If there are tour groups, or if there's a nice resort hotel, would you mind checking that out? Sometimes they can do that. Sometimes they can't. Sometimes you need to say, okay, let me plan it, and then I'll present it to you. So the problem with this, as Diana points out, is planning everything for the neurotypical is really tiring. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of things that goes into planning a vacation, or even just planning a dinner party, or that we've got to go school shopping. There's a lot of effort in that. So I'm always asking my neurodiverse people to please appreciate how much the neurotypical does, how much they think about all the people involved. Right? You got to think about all the people involved if you're going to have a good plan. If you say you're just going on vacation but you don't pick a date, or you pick a date that works for you but you don't think about the date that might work for your children, your in-laws, your spouse, we have to think about all of that. So one of my favorite examples is when my former husband, who's autistic, Howard, when he came home one day, and he was a new law partner, and he said, we're having, the partners are having a weekend retreat, sort of to plan their year. And it's going to be, and I said, when's that? And he said, gave me a date. And he said, and they want the spouses to come along. And I said, that might be fun, because they wanted to go to this resort. And I said, that might be fun. And they said, when is it? And I said, let me look up my calendar. I looked at my calendar, and sure enough, I was going to be out of town that weekend. I had some event that I was going to. And I said, I can't go this year, but maybe next year. So he said, okay, goes back and talks to his partners, and he said, what? The partner said, what do you mean she can't go? The spouses always go. So I don't know if they were all on the spectrum, maybe. And he said, well, she can't. She's got something planned. So the next year, when they planned the event again, he came again, and he said, here's when the event is, but we're planning far enough ahead, like it was 3 or 4 months ahead. Could you come this weekend? And I said, I hope so. So I looked at my calendar again, and sure enough, I was gone. I couldn't believe it. I was gone again. And so I said, I am going to be gone. I can't cancel this, but I'm so sorry. It's far enough ahead. You'd think it'd be okay, but it just happens to conflict. So he goes back, tells his partners that she can't go, and they're shocked. The third year comes around. This is a true story. The third year comes around, and his law partners got together, he and his law partners, and somebody in the firm said, do you know Kathy's schedule? So we can plan our event so she can be there. It finally occurred to them that they might, I couldn't believe that there weren't other spouses that couldn't come, but it finally occurred to them that they should ask for some convenient dates for all people. And that doesn't mean everybody can make it, but at least it's a consideration in the planning process. And you neurotypicals do this all the time. You're always thinking about how does this fit for everybody, and that's wearing. Just want you to know that and take that into consideration. So when you're planning, don't try to make it all come together because you've got a partner who wants to help, but it may be that you need to assign the neurodiverse person a specific task, like get our hotel or make our flight arrangements on these dates at this time because that's when the kids are out of school. So Diana says, yep, sometimes they just can't. They can't handle the chit-chat and the planning process. But you can't handle it either. I really want you to get that. It's really a lot of work if you have to do all the planning by yourself. It's too hard. It's too tiring. And, you know, another reason it's tiring is not because it's so much work, but because it doesn't get acknowledged that you went way out of your way to make some plan for everybody or plan for the whole year. Many of us have to plan for the whole year because they're just a busy family, right? Or busy lives. Or you're working and you only get a vacation in May and maybe another one in September or something, and you've got to work around all this stuff. That make sense? Okay, I'm looking to see if anybody left me a question yet. No, not yet. Okay, those of you who've just popped in, feel free to post a question even if it's not on the topic, because the topic is still about negotiating with in our neurodivergent relationships, how neurodiverse people and neurotypicals can work together, right? That's the topic. So it takes a while to learn how to do that because you have to think. Neurotypicals need to think like neurodiverse people. What is going to work for them? Just like with my ex-husband's law firm, it just didn't occur to them that he might be married to somebody who's a professional and a busy person. Just never occurred to them. They were all wrapped up in their own world. Right? I'm looking to see here. I don't see anybody else. No, not too many questions right now. Maybe people are having trouble finding me because I had to post this on my phone. I hope that you're able to listen to the recording a little bit later, though. So one of the things that I might add also is neurodiverse people are human beings too. A lot of times we don't treat them that way. They care, they love you, they want things to work well, just like anybody else. They want to have a vacation. But planning makes them anxious, unless they're just planning for themselves. It's tough for them to figure out what everybody else wants. So it's a lot easier if neurotypicals just give them what I want. It's like with the law firm finally saying, when does Kathy have time? And we'll plan it then. And, within the range of, they wanted to do it in the summer at the beach. Oh, okay. So my spouse gets so incredibly stressed out when we do anything out of the routine, like hosting some work friends. He was a basket case. I had to send him out for pickleball to get him out of my hair. Yeah, sometimes you get a lot of questions. That's a good point. Sometimes the neurodiverse person will say, well, how many people are coming to the party? When are they going to arrive? They just get worried about details like that because they don't know how to adapt. And so I like your suggestion of sending them out for pickleball to go and burn off that energy. They've got a lot of anxiety, and it can skyrocket over nothing. Neurotypicals go, this is nothing. You know, like I remember I was hosting a 50th birthday party for myself and my spouse because we both turned 50 within 3 weeks of each other. And I thought, this is exciting. Let's have a party. Let's have a big party. And I decided I wanted a luau, and I told him, well, and I arranged it. I even got fire dancers. I did the luau food and everything. And he was just beside himself because it was so out of the ordinary. And he just kept saying, you know, how many people are going to be there? When are they going to arrive? What kind of food are you going to get? I arranged the cake. I arranged photographer. I arranged everything. And by the time the party came, he was pretty frazzled. But he actually was able to enjoy himself because I didn't ask him to do anything except just go out and chat with his friends. I did everything else. I made sure that the kids were entertained. In fact, my neighbor's child was about 9, I think he was, and he said, for my birthday, can I have fire dancers? So they were entertained. I had a good time too, but believe me, I was tired. I was exhausted. I was so exhausted because I wanted it to be a special party, not just for our family, but for all my guests. And it was. They raved about it for years, actually. But my spouse didn't help me with it at all. So, let's see here. I hope I got to that question for Diana. So, I don't want you to overdo like I did. You don't have to have a luau and fire dancers for the new year. Tone it down. Do what you can do. You will get sick if you overplan, and I'm an overplanner. I'm an overachiever. I just have done that all my whole life, so I was a perfect spouse for someone on the spectrum. I just took care of everything until I couldn't anymore, until I collapsed. I just crashed and burned. So if you're going to plan for the new year, it really needs to be that part of the planning needs to be self-care, doesn't it? I've got another question here. I'm trying to pull it up. My phone doesn't want to do it. Oh, there we go. It says, one year I was so tired of making Christmas happen all by myself, I just couldn't do it. So I grabbed a girlfriend and flew to California for a few days and walked down Christmas Tree Lane and went to holiday parties with my childhood friends. I took care of me first and came home ready to plunge back in. This year I'm just scaling way back and discovered it'll be just fine. I had to change my expectations. Good for you. I did that one year too. I went to my childhood neighborhood and knocked on doors, and some people were there visiting their parents. It was really fun. It was fun. Just that they didn't mind inviting me in. I got a meal here and a dessert over there, and we chatted and we looked at old pictures, and we caught up on stuff. So yeah, take care of yourself. Scale it back. You don't have a partner who can do all the little subtle things that you would do. It doesn't mean they don't want to. I'm not trying to badmouth people that are neurodiverse. They just don't think about all those things. And even if you give them a list of all the things you'd like them to do, it may make them anxious, or they may do half the list and not understand that the whole list needs to be completed. They may wonder, why are you complaining? I did most of the stuff on the list. I bought candles. What's the problem? So it's important that it be something that they feel that they can do for you, right? And you can say, I don't want to do this. You can say, I would rather have somebody who can do more, but that's not paying attention to the fact that this is a disability. Okay, autism is a disability. It's a diagnosable disability. It's considered by the insurance companies and the federal government as a disability. So it's an odd disability, though, isn't it? There's this bright, capable person who can go to law school and dental school, or be a high school math teacher, or run a car repair shop. They're often really bright people, but the disability part is reading between the lines and handling ordinary planning. Nicole says, do you recommend new patterns to replace old patterns? Is this even possible? Yes, the new pattern is what I talk about in my course. It's the 7-step interface protocol. It's really important. The masking needs to stop. Pretending to be normal has to stop. That won't work for anybody. Okay, and I can get into what that means, but the new patterns are workarounds, lots of note-taking for the neurodiverse person. The neurotypical has to, and the problem is you can't do the new patterns if your neurodiverse person isn't on board with the fact that they are neurodiverse. If you're getting resistance about that, they won't accept the new patterns. Right? So if they accept it, they might try something. They might try something new. They need some practice with it. They need time with it. You can't expect them to get it overnight. In fact, I was just talking about that this morning. One of my neurodiverse clients put Post-it notes up in his office. He was a surgeon, and he put Post-it notes all over his home office about things that he was supposed to do for his wife. He needed Post-it notes for simple things. Like when you go to the grocery store, ask her what she needs at the store. Don't just go pick up what you think is needed. But sometimes it's simple, sometimes it was bigger, stuff like that, right? And they really like actually making lists, making notes. I had another client who did a spreadsheet. He did what he did is a diagram of the grocery store that they went to most of the time and what was on every aisle. And then he would ask her to check off anything that she needed according to the aisles of the grocery store, and then he could take that with him and go find it. And believe me, this guy was an engineer, so he had IQ points, but he couldn't figure out how to buy things in the grocery store unless he had his spreadsheet. So spreadsheets are good, lists are good. A lot of times, it's like the author David Finch wrote a wonderful book called The Journal of Best Practices, and his wife diagnosed him. She's a speech pathologist, and she recognized that he was autistic, and so he began exploring what that meant, and he realized that he didn't know how to read his wife. He loved her. He knew a lot of stuff about her, but he didn't know how to read her in the moment. So he writes this book about how he took notes. He got a notebook, and he started taking notes about what she wanted. He was making up his list of rules, right? So he knew that when she got home from work, she wanted to be asked, how did work go today? Just like he does. And if she says, oh, it was okay, he needs to ask again. Well, tell me more about that. He couldn't say, oh, that's good, because he might try that. He had to learn rules to follow. But she was asked after he published his book, and he did all this research, does it feel like he's more empathic? Does it feel like he really is reaching out to you? And she said, no, he's not better at it. But the fact that he's trying makes me feel loved. See, that's the important part, is to give it a shot. If the neurodiverse people who are listening today, if you can make a good effort at it, your neurotypical will love that. Don't worry. Don't give yourself a hard time if you miss the mark. I just learned about this in a Bible study class I was taking. Do you know what sin means? One definition of sin, it means to miss the mark. That's all it means. You just miss the mark and you get another chance. Right? So the neurodiverse needs to learn how to say, I'm sorry, it seems like I'm annoying you, and with my questions, I'm just doing my best to have a conversation here, but I'm not very good at it. I'm missing the mark. You're not bad because you missed the mark. And for you neurotypicals, you're not bad because you missed the mark with your neurodiverse people and keep expecting them to plan with you. Right? You're not bad. Okay. Let's see here if there's anything else. Okay, I don't think so. Right now I don't have anything. But remember, I'll answer questions later because I was having some trouble with technology and I couldn't post everything that I wanted to post for you, so I'll go back and do that later today. But I do have to sign off today, so thank you for making it, and I'll find out what the technological problem is. It could just be a Facebook thing because I'm able to come in on my phone, not on the internet, which is interesting. Okay, Take care, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.